Hey guys, this is Jay Calder with Jay Unboxing here, giving you a personal prediction for Canelo Alvarez versus Gennadiy Golovkin 3. And as always, this is just my take. Your prediction can be left down in the comments section below. Would love to hear it all, especially about this one. It seems to be a fight many feel is going one way, but would love to hear what your thoughts are on this one. Any predictions, bets, all that good stuff, leave that down in the comments section below. Little fight info here. We have Canelo Alvarez taking on Gennadiy Golovkin for the third time, of course, taking place at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, Nevada, airing on DAZN pay-per-view. Got to pay for the pay-per-view, of course. That's wonderful. And this will include all of the gold at 168 pounds from the Ring Magazine title to the 4 sanctioning bodies that are possessed by Alvarez. All will be on the line in this encounter. And this really is a doozy of a fight. It's an interesting one in a lot of respects because you sort of expected when these two fought each other that they both were talented enough that it could warrant a trilogy of some sort if it worked out that way. This one didn't seem like it was going to initially. Initially, you see Golovkin, tie in a fight that many predicted or expected, rather, that he would win, and he did. Then you see the second fight, and many believe that Canelo won that, but they sort of broke away from each other at that point. Now, after an interesting portion of their career where one in Golovkin was not very active, and Canelo where he dominated for a while but then was soundly defeated at light heavyweight, they meet one more time in this interesting kind of crossroads fight where you really do see a lot on the line here. The sort of legacy of Golovkin and the sort of prominence of Canelo both being on the line here. While one in Canelo is surely the favorite in this fight, that does make for an interesting dynamic. So it'll be an interesting fight to break down. So without much more ado, let's get into this one. Starting with Canelo Alvarez here. For Alvarez to win, I think you want to push Golovkin back. Golovkin's a natural power puncher. He has very heavy hands, so you're not trying to give him any kind of ground because it's only going to make his shots hit harder. He will have less power if you're backing him up. You also will then have the ability to step into your shots. And as a fighter with a little less reach who likes to be pretty explosive, if you're Canelo, I think that's going to best suit you when you're stepping into your punches. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that Golovkin is on the wrong side of 40 at this point in his career, and it's much harder moving backwards, especially for older fighters, when you're trying to preserve some of the energy that might be just naturally dipping away with age. So you, of course, want to lean into that if you're Canelo and push him back and really have to make him work while taking some of his power away from him in the process. This next one here will be step in with the jab hook. As I mentioned, you're going to want to step in anyway. You're going to want to be taking the front foot, the middle of the ring here to begin with. But also, this particular shot is probably your best natural shot. It's a shot that you can generate very quickly, very easily, and of course that means you're exerting less energy while also being able to bust Golovkin up in the process. Because again, you can kind of keep it as a relatively straight shot that just turns over into a hook from time to time to catch him off guard. The other good thing about this shot is that if you're throwing it from the right angle, bending at the knees from time to time, you can actually convert this into something of a body shot, which again, we're going to get into, is a good shot against an older fighter because it's going to break him down a little bit quicker. So this is certainly a shot I think you want to kind of exploit in this fight and get going early and often so that it can pay dividends as the fight progresses. And as I mentioned, final one here, attack the body. Obviously, Golovkin's older. I've mentioned that a couple of times now. That's pretty obvious. He's 40 years old. This is just something he's going to have to deal with. Hurting the body is a great way to deal with an older fighter. They're probably already beginning to fade earlier as it is due to the fact that age simply has an effect on you. When you're able to attack the body well, this is going to expedite that process. What's more, if you're Canelo, you have a very solid left hook to the body, one that you can really dig in there anyway. So you should look to get it going, certainly much more than you did in the first and second fight when you at times abandoned the body work. You have good body work. He has been shown to be susceptible to the body and hurt in the past. This is a perfect marriage of those kinds of facts, and try to get that going in the fight so that it pays off later on in the contest. Now, for Gennadiy Golovkin to win, I think you want to get a fast start. Naturally, to some degree, Golovkin can be a bit of a slow starter. He can have some early stoppages and knockdowns as well, but he likes to get going a little bit later in the fight, maybe the third or fourth. That's going to be a lot harder to do against a younger fighter when you're 40 if you're giving him too much of a lead. You just don't want that to happen. You really can't let Canelo run you over. What's more, with the mentality of getting a faster start, it likely means you're coming forward more anyway, which I think if you're Golovkin, you're going to need to do. You don't want to make this more of a boxing match where timing and speed plays more of a factor because those aren't on your side. Instead, you wanted to make it more about power and physical exertion, especially early, so that you at least have a chance to build up some points and hopefully hold on to those as the fight wears on. I would also say keep a busy jab. Of course, this is for a number of reasons. Number one, it pushes Canelo back a little bit, especially because as Golovkin, you have a very solid thudding jab to begin with, and you can even use feints to do this as well. Kind of throw jabs, mix in those feints, keep him guessing he's not going to come in nearly as much. The jab also offsets the younger man's speed, as does the feints. The feints will offset his speed as well as his counter punching ability, which Canelo likes to do. He loves to sit back and counter. If you can feint and jab, that can really help you here. Naturally, of course, the jab is going to also help set up the left hook and the right hand, which are your best shots and their power shots. And again, if you're coming forward when doing this, you're exerting less but still getting some mustard on those shots, which of course Golovkin's always looking to do anyway. So this just leans into what would be your natural game plan to begin with, but it all is going to have to start with the very busy jab. And finally, I would say work the inside uppercut. One of the reasons I'm going to bring this punch up is because, quite frankly, it's a good shot. It's a shot you like to throw. You can time it pretty well. You can put some good power on it, and what's not to like about that? However, it also benefits you because Canelo has a tendency at times to lunge in, especially with that left hand. And if you can time it properly, you can catch him. Canelo has a great beard, as does Golovkin, to be honest. But if you can continue to crack at him with this shot, at the very least, it might potentially split that guard and stop some of his aggression as he's getting caught and countered pretty quickly with the shot that matters. So if you can implement that shot into your game plan pretty early in the contest, it might actually begin to tame Canelo a bit and give you more of the ground that you're looking to have in this fight. In terms of my prediction, it feels I have to side with Canelo Alvarez on this one. Years ago, when they first fought, I thought Golovkin would win, and I think he definitely won one of their fights, the first fight in particular. However, he's 40. And if you listen to my breakdown, age, I believe, will have a lot to do with this outcome, unfortunately, for Golovkin. I think Canelo wants to prove something, so he'll come out hot and aggressive and make it a fight. The exchanges won't be wild or necessarily all one-sided to begin with, but they will be throwing hard and both will be getting hit and really have to take a toll on both of them. However, while Golovkin will do well when Canelo begins working the body a bit more and really stepping into those shots with regularity, the fight will begin to really take its toll on Golovkin. Canelo will be in full control come those middle to kind of late middle rounds and be pouring it on before Golovkin is likely retired in his corner in the latter rounds after sustaining a bit too much punishment for his and his team's liking. Canelo Alvarez via late fight stoppage. Now, the betting odds for this fight have Canelo as a pretty wide favorite. It actually opened a little bit closer, but has gotten to a point where Canelo is a minus 525 favorite with Golovkin coming in at a plus 380 underdog. Now, of course, anyone who's watched this trilogy unfold realizes the odds were much closer earlier in their careers when they initially fought. It was basically an even money fight with Golovkin being a favorite on some lines. So certainly a ways away from that. But in any event, considering their current form and the points in their career, I think these odds make a lot of sense. Which means, unfortunately, there's not a great deal of value in it. Canelo is too much of a favorite to really want to risk that kind of money because it is still a fight and anything can happen. And 5-1 is just not good enough for me. No bueno at all. Golovkin, if you want to throw a small bet on there that you're willing to lose just for the simple sake of the fact that they're rivals or because you happen to be a big Golovkin fan, I wouldn't blame you for that. You're getting nearly 4-1 odds, but for the most part, these are just not lines that I'm particularly interested in. In terms of the over-under, you have the over-under set at about its most even at around the 10.5 round mark, which means that most people think this fight is going to go the distance. I can understand that. Again, I have it as a late stoppage, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did reach the scorecards, to be honest with you. If you're betting the over on the 10.5, you're getting it at minus 215, which is not terrible. You're getting 2-1 odds basically, so something you could look into. And the unders at a plus 150. Again, not particularly great. You could buy around, get it probably around 170, 175, but for the most part, those odds are actually probably where the value is. It just depends on whether or not you can pick that out perfectly, because again, it's basically saying here that it's expecting it to go the distance. So have to play that one as you do. In any event, those are your odds. And my prediction record as of September 7, 2022 is 28, 8-1 with 10 exact. But let me know what you guys think down in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts, predictions, bets, so on and so forth. And specifically about this fight, do you expect it to go the distance? Love to hear that down in the comments. Please be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB. And you can email me at jagunboxing@gmail.com. Love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out jagunboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. Just updated the schedule and betting odds, so you could definitely check that out as well. And as always, until next time.